Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from group 7. The members of this group are me, Shelvi Susanto, and then Devie Novitri, Yuni Rostiani, Fitri Rahmatillah, and the last we have Sherin Bunga Permata. On this occasion, we will present our presentation about the chapter 7 with the title, When We Assess and How Can We Use Assessment to Move Forward. And now, without any further ado, let's move on into the first point, which will be explained by me, Shelvi Susanto. The first point is about using assessment to move forward. Taylor and Nolan, 2008, stated that as educators are to first and foremost do no harm, and we need to continue to focus on the relationship between teaching, learning and assessment, and rethink of some of the assumptions that we hold about testing and assessment. For the students, the academic race to be the smartest and most skilled students have to be reduced because it is not the focus on learning and improvement. For assessment to be effective and to enhance, not harm, students' learning, students must compete with themselves. It means that the students have to take a look to their own achievements instead of comparing themselves with the other students. It can be by realizing about their deficiency on the previous learning activities when trying to improve or fix them on the next activities. To ensure high-quality classroom assessment practices, there are several practices that will support and enhance student learning. The first one, assessment takes place during instruction and continuously. It can provide early indications of the performance of students, and it allows tracking of progress and has a chance of offering students more support, guidance, and opportunities to improve during the instruction. The second, knowledge and skills should not be assessed in isolation. The third, students should be informed about and involved in all assessment events, whether our purpose is assessment for, as, or of learning. The fourth, when as teachers, we actively question, reflect on, and learn more about assessment, we increase its quality and positive impact. And the last is, as the teachers, we should use a combination of assessment of learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning. On the first chapter, we have learned about 4 fundamental aspects of classroom assessment activities. There are assessment events such as an oral presentation or a listening activity. Assessment tools can support student learning when the tools provide students with clear ideas about what is important to learn. Assessment processes can support students' views of their teachers as allies in their education. And the last is assessment decisions can support students' learning when grades accurately reflect what students know and can do. And on this chapter, we will focus to the fourth aspect, which the assessment decisions. Next is about grading. The second point I will explain is about grading. We can define grading as the process of summing up student achievement using a numerical or ordinal scale, and it is a complex evaluative practice that requires teachers to make judgments about student learning. It is used to make public statements to the students, parents, and others stakeholders about student achievement. For the example, the students will be asked to make an essay, and then the teacher will read it and assign rating from A to F. Therefore, those ratings can be a public statement to students, parents, and other stakeholders because they can know the grade or achievement of the students. Thus, grading is one of the most high-stakes classroom assessment practice with significant consequences for student self-perception, motivation for learning, prioritization of certain curriculum expectations, parental expectations, and social relationships, according to Brookhart 2013. That's all from me. The next material will be explained by Sherin Bunga Permata. Sherin, please.
Okay, thank you, Shelvi. Next slide, please. Okay. In grading, there are research on grading and grading scenarios. For first, I will explain about research on grading. Um, Guski 2011, Randall and Egelhard 2010, Yesbeck 2011, recent research has further explored factors that influence and shape teachers' grades related to the both uh, achievement and non-achievement, for example, effort and behavior. Based on interview data with secondary and elementary classroom teachers in Virginia, Macmillan and Nash 2000 proposed a model of teachers' classroom and grading decision making, including both internal and external influencing factors. The first is the most silent internal factor was the teacher's philosophy of teaching and learning. The second is the major external factors were identified as district grading policies, mandated statewide learning standards, and high stakes and parents' expectations. Macmillan 2008 argued that one of the most difficult issues in grading is how to deal with non-achievement factors such as effort, work habits, and motivation. The results of this study indicate that grading was influenced by local grading system, teachers' perfections of student efforts, and their concern for formal development. Other studies on teachers' gradings practices have focused on how grades are interpreted by key stakeholders. There are teachers, students, and parents. Thomas and Oldfather, 1997, in presenting a theoretical discussion on their 7 years research agenda, argued that grade meanings are socially constructed, situation specific, and subject to multiple interpretation. They identified the potential relationship between teachers' grades and students' motivation to learning. As identified by Brookhart 2013, grades are acknowledged to have multiple meanings and multiple contexts, including social and legal context. From a social cultural specific, the grading decision convey teachers' values, beliefs, and assumption about teaching and learning, which are rooted in and shaped by the social, cultural, and historical context in which teachers work. In summary, little is known about the underlying teaching and learning values that contribute to grade decision. We do not have sufficient evidence of the consequence of grade use as for teachers, students, parents, and principals. Next is grading scenarios. Next slide, please. Grading is a complex evaluative practice that requires teachers to make judgment about students' learning. Grades are used most notably to make public statements to students, parents, and principals about student achievement. Due to high-stake nature of grading, we as teachers work continuously to make our grading practices through fair and meaningful. So there are the three scenarios were created by Sun and Cheng 2014. The first scenario focusing on work to ability, the second scenario focusing on missing work, and the third scenario focusing on improvement. The scenario can help you to explore your own grading decision making. I think that is for me. Back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Sherin, for your great explanation. And now we have Fitri to explain the next point about this presentation. Fitri, please.
Thank you to moderator. And I will explain about impact of large scale of testing, test preparation. Large-scale testing is increasing being used in educational systems around the world for greater assessment, gatekeeping, and policymaking objectives. The findings of this test are used to make inferences about students' proficiency based on their performance on a sample of items selected from a whole content area of knowledge, regardless of the subject areas being evaluated or the task construction. Student grades are used as measure of their academic achievement, and they are frequently linked to a number of high-stakes decisions, such as student receiving degrees and academic advancement, teachers receiving professional certification information, and school board receiving funds. Large-scale testing has affected what and how teachers teach, and especially what and how students learn. Test preparation is receiving more attention in a variety of sectors, including curriculum, educational measurement, and language evaluation. And next is test preparation defined. Number one is coaching is applied to commercial programs operated as extracurricular activities that students participate in outside of school and refers to short-term instructions targeted to improve student test performance on a particular examination and does not necessarily have the aim to improve their academic skills. Number two is teaching to the test is often used in school settings and is usually discussed in the curriculum literature. A narrow definition of teaching to the test implies that teachers' instruction focuses narrowly on actual tasks and items with an aim to improve student test scores or simply item teaching. However, a broader definition may mean that teachers build their instruction around the learning outcomes, which are sampled by tasks in order to enhance student knowledge, capability, and performance both in the test and in real terms in classroom and beyond. And last is test preparation can be applied to contexts both inside and outside school activities and is most often used in research. It is more natural and inclusive and is defined as variety of activities which review and develop capacities or content sampled by test and practice test taking skills in attempt to improve students' test scores. This term is differ in focus depending on the context where they are used and studied. Some researchers also use the delivery mode to understand and study test preparation. Test preparation can be school-based, commercial-based, computer-based, and book-based according to the delivery mode. School-based test preparation is integrated into the curriculum and offered by classroom teachers within school settings. Commercial-based test preparation is pre-trained, short-term instruction operated by commercial business interests or agency with the claim of the effectively increasing student test scores. Computer-based test preparation is best preparation whose content is administered through a computer where students have control over the speed and the amount of test preparation they choose to engage in. Book-based test preparation is structured on commercial publisher, practice books, and test publisher official guides. That's all from me, and the next material will be presented by Yuni Rostiani.
All right. The next material is about test preparation examine. Next slide, please. Okay, test preparation has been researched in 3 different areas. The first is teaching to the test and measurement-driven instruction in the field of curriculum. It is because such as approaches has the potential to constrain curriculum. The next is test impact and consequential validity in the field of educational measurement. It is because of the influence it has on exam scores and how they are used. And the last is was back in the field of language testing because of the impact it has on language acquisition and teaching. The effects of test preparation on the accuracy of students' test results as an indicator of their academic aptitude, or more theoretically, the influences of test preparation on the validity of test scores were the focus of research in these domains. The degree to which empirical data and theoretical rationales support the adequacy and appropriateness of inferences and actions drawn from test scores is referred to as validity. Simply, simply defined, the validity of a test score is accomplished if a realistic interpretation of a student's skill level can be determined from the test score. However, if a test result is not an accurate representation of a student's mastery, the interpretation and inference based on the score will be inaccurate, and the test score's validity will be jeopardized. Next. Next slide, please. Fitri, can you? Okay. According to Masick 1996 has stated that students may properly answer some test items using test witnesses techniques, rather than their actual knowledge if test preparation emphasize the education of test witnesses strategies. Test witnesses is described as the ability to reply favorably to items containing clues and as a result to receive credit without possessing the ability, skill, expertise, or knowledge of the subject area being assessed. Since the 1950s, a slew of educational measurement studies have looked at how coaching programs affect high school students' test scores. For example, Montgomery and Lilly 2012. According to the findings of this research, coaching programs improve students' test scores by 20 to 30 points on the Scholastic Aptitude Test, language and math subtest. Language testing studies look at this issue in a somewhat different approach. Rather than analyzing effect size in terms of scores improvements, they look at whether students who take test preparation courses do considerably better than those who don't. These studies have found conflicting results, such as the first is students attending test preparation classes perform much better. The second one is no significant advantage for students taking test preparation courses. According to Montgomery and Lilly 2012, as a result, whether test preparation can have a major impact on test scores is still up for debate, and more empirical research is needed. Next. Okay, the next is about test preparation pedagogical implications. Principles based on theory can be viewed in two ways. The first is using an according to Mehrens and Kaminsky 1989, using an evaluative continuum to assess test preparation activities that range from ethical to unethical. The next is POPAM 1991 stated that establishing a set of specific criteria for assessing the appropriateness of these activities in terms of professional ethics. Since the 1980s, theory-based principles for evaluating test preparation activities have been refined to include additional tangible dimensions. According to Crocker 2006, the following criteria must be met, such as academic ethics requires test preparation activities to be consistent with ethical standards of the educational profession. Fairness means all test takers should have equal access to preparation opportunities. Educational value means test preparation should improve both test takers' scores and their content knowledge. Transferability requires test preparation to teach test takers. Validity requires test preparation to improve the validity of test score interpretation. Validity requires test preparation to improve the validity of test score interpretation. Validity requires test preparation to improve the validity of test score interpretation. And then validity requires test preparation to teach tests. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yuni, for a clear explanation. And for the last, we have Devie Novitri to explain the next point. For Devie, please.
Thank you for the moderator. Okay, next. Okay, one concern of this theory-based participle is practicality. Classroom teachers have complained that these standards are too general to follow in judging their own preparation activity based on Permata 1991. And there are 5 types of test preparation practices that can support learning and language development. Number 1 is teaching to the content domain covered by the curriculum. Number 2, using a variety of assessment. Number 3, reviewing and teaching task-taking strategies. Next is promoting students' motivation. And the last is managing time and frequency of the test preparation. Turner also suggests practical teaching activity for each. Okay, next slide. Okay, and teacher, a minute. Okay, from the outset, we have argued that assessment playing an essential role in language teaching and learning. The day-to-day assessment of student learning is unquestionable one of the teacher's most important, complex, and demanding tasks. As teacher, we are the principal agents of assessment, so we need to ensure the quality of classroom assessment practices and need to use this practice in a way that best support our student learning. If this statement still stands, we can ignore the role that students play in assessment, so we have argued that assessment for us and for learnings should be integrated in our assessment practice and emphasize a role in supporting learning. Therefore, it is inevitable that consideration of our students' experiences with the responsive of testing and assessment practice should be at the center of our teaching and research. So, teacher can align their test preparation practices with both the theory-based and the practice-based principle in judging the appropriateness of their own task preparation activity. And for example, in here, teacher often instructs students to manage their time to test for tasks or one common task taking strategy to ensure tasks are complete within a designed time limit. And this task preparation activity can reduce the possibility of having insufficient time to complete the task, owing to not managing time well. Okay, next. Okay, next is 7.4, putting students' experiences at the center of our teaching a vinyl word. According to Cheng et al. 2014, research on student at test taker has investigated their experiences of being tested, their cognitive process, and the conditional in which there have been test research in language assessment in particular has primarily addresses task taking experience from the perspective of testing strategies. Test taker behaviors and perception during task taking process and prior knowledge and preparation, and also anxiety and motivation to taking the test. Next. Okay. In here we have 8 overarching theme and 26 code were drawn. Number 1 is test administration and testing condition, timing, and then number 3 is test structure and context, and scoring effects, and the 5 is preparation and test taking strategies, and 6 test purpose, psychological factors, and internal factor, and test consequences. Next. I'm sorry, back to the previous slide. Okay, so Cheng and Delpa 2012 explored test takers testing experiences and examined the relationship between aspect of testing experience and test taker profession of test validity and use. And 59 test takers as a large English medium university in Asia participate in the taker, and a large English medium university participated in the study. And the result reflected participants' multiple experiences with a range of large-scale English language tests. Cheng and De Luca encouraged participants to discuss issue of validity and test used from a variety of testing experience. Thank you. I'll go back to moderator.
Thank you, Devie. What a clear explanation. And Alhamdulillah Alamin, all of the members have explained about the chapter 7. And thank you so much for watching. We are sorry if there was a mistake in our presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.